Welcome to the Jazz Roundtable, brought to you by Live at Zero BPM, with your host, Grammy Award-winning percussionist and mallet player, Billy Holting. Tonight's guests, pianist and film director, Emilio Palame. And we don't charge a cover, but musicians are paid exclusively by your tips, so we strongly encourage you to do so. Just go to live@zerobpm.com/tipjar. You can also tip on Venmo at ZeroBPM. And now, let's get to the music with your host, Billy Holting.
Hey, everybody. Sorry for some of that. We just had a little glitch with Facebook, but we're up and running now. And hey, welcome. You know, I know Tommy has done so much in the world of music and film and everything. He's going to be really fun and fascinating to talk to. And he's going to be a great interview. But to remind you, Phil is already in the chat rooms right now. Hi, Phil. If you're out there and you have a question for Emilio, just type it in the chat rooms. I have one window that shows me all the chat rooms. And Joyce is here also. So if you have a question, just pipe in and we'll get to it. But we have got so much to cover right now. And I'll put the tip jar as well. So let's bring in...
And I'm going to...
There you go. Now we've got you. So just so you know, we're having a little bit of Facebook problems. So if Emilio vanishes for a second and comes back, it just means we're dealing with a weird internet connection thing. And there he is. I hear the ringing. And there he is.
Here we are.
Here we are. I just explained to them that if you disappear for a minute, they shouldn't freak out. Just wait and you'll be back. So how are you tonight?
I'm doing great. And I'm really happy that you asked me to come on the show and talk with you about the Nights of Swing and my career. I'm honored to be here.
Well, yeah, it's really fun. You contacted me about a month or two ago to let me know about this new film and how you wanted to be a guest. It's always nice when people seek you out and I don't have to call up, cold call some people, but this is really fun. Let's just jump right into it because you're from Buffalo originally.
That's correct.
Tell us a little bit how you got into music, how old you were, what you started with.
Well, I started very young. I was a piano student first. I played by ear. We had a young group of musicians with my cousin and some neighborhood kids, and we had a band called the Magical Staircase, and we played all the tunes of the days. This was, when I was in 6th grade, so it's a little late 60s, early 70s that this was all happening, and we played at the YMCA dances. We played at backyard parties, and we got our feet wet playing the songs of the day, the Monkees, the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, and then we ventured off into a little hint, and then we played some Sam and Dave, some of the Temptations, and we were a pretty eclectic little group, and we carted my Aunt Carol's organ up 15 stairs from the basement and played the dances, and it was quite a project growing up, I can tell you.
I can imagine. And so then from where did you go to college then?
I went to SUNY, SUNY, State University of New York at Fredonia. And I got heavily involved in the jazz ensemble program there. And that's how I got into big band music. I was accepted into the first band when I was a freshman, which was quite unusual.
Wow.
And then I ran the second band when I was a sophomore. And then my junior, senior, and my graduate year, I ran the entire program. And we went to the famed Notre Dame Jazz Festival in 1977, and I won Outstanding Composer Arranger and Outstanding Keyboardist, and did all the arrangements for the band. And that's where I really got into the big band arranging.
Now, you say when you first went to college, you got into big band. When did you start composing? Like right away, or did you wait 3 days or so?
Well, I had always been writing songs from when I was in the young rock band, but I started when I heard Count Basie's band and when I heard Thad Jones, Mel Lewis. I really, really got into trying to understand what these guys were doing as
Hmm.
arrangers. And I learned a great deal by studying those scores and being in school. Billy, it was great because I could put together like a trombone section in about a half hour and say, hey, I want to hear
Right.
what these voicings sound
Oh,
like.
cool.
And so having that at my fingertips throughout my college years was one of the best ways that I learned through experience what voicing sound like. And of course, studying Thad Jones's scores because they were
Hmm.
available through Kendor Music to all the schools at that point. And I remember talking to my friend Gordon Goodwin about this, and then he did the same thing. And
Hmm.
some of his music has definitely been inspired by Thad Jones, Mel Lewis.
Oh, definitely. No, I read in your bio that that was one of your life changing moments was hearing the Thad Jones Mel Lewis big band. So, but,
Well, they actually came to Fredonia State University. One of the cool things that we were able to do at the college was bring in major big bands. We brought in Woody Herman's band. We brought in Stan Kenton's band. We brought in Maynard Ferguson's band, and we brought in Thad Jones, Mel Lewis's band. And they came right to the campus for 2 3 days at a time. And I got to sit next to with the Thad Jones Mel Lewis band. I got to sit next to Sir Roland Hanna and play dual piano with him with the Thad Jones Mel Lewis Orchestra. And I can tell you, Billy, that was one of the thrills of my young growing
well,
up,
yeah,
my years as a young jazz musician learning.
that's got to be very inspiring to sit and
Yeah,
do that.
well, because he's one of my favorite
Hmm.
players. He has a very unique style, especially when it comes to playing with big band.
Hmm. So by the time now you were leading the bands, just the one band there, but you were writing all of the charts, or did you guys ever bring in other charts, or was it
Oh yeah, we played the music of Duke Ellington. We played the
okay?
music of Buddy Rich, Maynard Ferguson, and in
Hmm.
fact, the Maynard Ferguson thing was kind of interesting because when they came to our campus, uh, a gentleman who was playing guitar with them, Mr. John Chiodini,
Mm.
ended up being
Oh, we're gonna have to wait a second to find out what John Chiodini kept. Anyway, I apologize for this. There's just a connection issue we're having, and oh, there's
sure.
the ringing. There he is. So we lost you at John Chiodini became.
Oh, we became great friends because he was the guitar player on Maynard's band when they came
Hmm.
to our campus. And when we met, he said, I'm going to be moving out to Los Angeles. Uh, it would be great if we could hook up then. And we actually did.
Mm.
And he's the one who got me on Miss Peggy Lee's gig because he was already playing with her. And it was kind of a funny story. I don't know, Billy, if you remember the club, the Nucleus Nuance.
Oh, I do remember. I don't know.
I was playing there one night and I got a call. It was really strange on the payphone at the Nucleus Nuance when I finished playing a gig at like 1 o'clock in the morning, and it was actually John Chiodini's wife called me and said she kind of talked with a Rhode Island accent, and she says, "Hey, how would you like to play with Miss Peggy Lee tomorrow night?"
Oh
And I
wow.
said, "What? What are you talking?" And brought me. I didn't get the piano book. I got the guitar book because he couldn't get the piano book.
Right.
And he went through all the music like the best friend that he was.
Oh
He
wow.
went
That's
through all
cool.
the music with me. And the next day I met with Peggy Lee at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And I did two moments from the show of 27 songs.
Hmm.
She said, I do this one part in Folks Who Live on the Hill where I sing, Our veranda will command a view of forest green, right? So
Hmm.
I played that with her and she said, that's good. And then she said, I do Wind Beneath My Wings as a recit. So just follow me. And I would play chord and she would sing, I wasn't cold when, she sang the verse
Hmm.
and then she said, that's great. I'll see you tonight. And that was it.
Wow.
And the rest of the songs, I rehearsed Grady Tate. I'm sure you know his fame, the
Hmm.
drummer.
Hmm.
Met with me at 4 o'clock in the afternoon or at 6 o'clock that evening and said, these are how these grooves go. And this goes, we spent about 15 minutes. He said, I'll see you. And the Westwood Playhouse is a very intimate theater. It's 450 seats.
Yeah.
And and Peggy sat right, I should say, Miss Lee sat right in the crook of the piano. So
Oh wow.
her ears were about Billy, were about 18 inches from the string. So if I played some wrong notes, it was really obvious. But I played that night after she had fired 3 piano players in a row the 3 nights before that.
Wow.
And I worked with her from that night for another 11 years.
Wow, I think I told you before. I actually got to meet her. I played a couple of her rehearsals, and what a nice
Yes.
lady, and what a voice, and just what a dear sweet woman. We played rehearsed up at her house, and it
Yep.
was pretty
In Bel
cool.
Air.
That massive living room with all the paintings. I'll never forget that. So well, cool. And then so you this is when you lived out in L.A. Obviously, when you got the call from John Chiodini, right? Yeah,
Yes,
you're
that's
living
correct.
here, and then you've also been music director for Paul Williams, which you did for a long time, right?
A couple of years, yes, and that
Okay.
was such a thrill playing those songs. We've only just begun. It's not easy being green.
Oh,
Uh,
iconic.
just like Rainy Days and Mondays. I mean, these songs were so in my heart. So when I got a chance to accompany him and perform with him,
Hmm.
it was just amazing. The same thing happened to me when Grant Geisman, and
Hmm.
Grant,
Yeah.
you've
Yeah.
had Grant on the show,
Friend of the
right?
show. Yes.
Yeah, right. So Grant had to do some other gig, and I forgive me because I don't remember what it was, but he
Hmm.
said, "Would you sub for me on keyboards for me not playing guitar with Chuck Mangione?"
Oh, wow.
And, and this guy was an
Wait a minute.
idol of. Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
It's crazy,
Did
right?
you play the solo on Feel So Good?
I did, and I played it on B3 organ.
Oh, wow. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, it was really neat. And Chuck was one of my idols. I can tell you that when I was in uh, high school,
Hmm.
I would sit and pretend I was conducting those concerts that he did
Hmm.
with the Rochester Symphony, and so I knew "Hill Where the Lord Hides." I knew all those songs
Right.
inside and out. So when I got to play with him, I was ready,
That's
and
great.
and I did a whole tour with him, and then it culminated, which was really fun. We played at a place called, I think it was called the Twin Palms in San Diego,
Hmm.
and Grant was able to play on the gig. So we had both of us playing with Chuck Mangione. So it was amazing. It was really wonderful. He's such a fantastic musician and a great
Well,
writer, obviously.
who got to play the solo that night? Oh, we lost him. We're gonna have to wait and find out who got to play the solo that night with Chuck Mangione. Well, while we're waiting to have him come back, it's like I got to say hi to Toby, and Rochelle is here also, and Jamie, my good friend Jamie, who apparently he got his finished his plumbing. So, oh, and here's Emil back. I was just saying,
So apparently that's that iPad glitch you were talking
yeah,
about.
yeah. And so we were just about to find out who got to play the solo that night when you and Grant were both there.
Oh, well, obviously Grant, of
I know,
course.
but it would have been funny if you had just said, "Hey, I've been doing pretty good on this, so can you just let me have it?"
That's funny. That's very
Grant
funny.
probably would have said okay, but yeah, Grant's
Probably not.
now you've played on a bunch of Grant's albums, also, haven't you?
Uh, for over 35 years, yes.
Wow.
I'm on,
Yeah,
I'm on almost well, actually, I'm on every single album that he's ever done.
and didn't you say
From
that you get to play on the title cut of each of those albums? Is that the story you
he
told
was
me?
so gracious with me. Grant, I really have to say that Grant was another one of my mentors. And it's funny that John Chiodini and Grant Geisman, guitar players, are
Hmm.
two of my favorite mentors
Yeah.
in terms of not only learning from them, but them helping my career.
Hmm.
Uh, yes, Grant has been very gracious with me, and I've played gigs with him all over the country, and he's an amazing musician, as you well know.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. And then you also play.
Apparently, this is going to be a thing. No, okay, we're good. I
Okay.
just lost your
Oh,
audio. Go,
okay.
go ahead.
You said you played with Alphonse Mouzon as well.
I did. God rest his soul.
Hmm.
It was exciting because I played with him. I got to play with sax players Richard Elliott
Hmm.
and with Dave Cause, and we toured quite a bit. And one of the craziest gigs we ever did was the Telluride Jazz Festival,
It's a great
because
festival.
it's a great festival, but you're 7,000 feet up, and
7,589.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I knew you would know
I
exactly
go to
what it
Telluride a
was.
lot. So,
Oh, you do? Why?
yeah.
Why is that?
Well, I have a really good friend there. I've played there a couple of times. And in fact, my first gig ever on the road was the Telluride Jazz Festival.
Wow,
And then I
that's
played there.
exciting, isn't
Yeah,
it?
and I've got a really good friend that lives there, and so I go visit him once because it's such a beautiful place. And I can't
Oh
know if
yeah,
that's,
it's
but I know it's
unbelievable.
around 75, 800 feet. So yeah, some people have trouble with the altitude there.
Yeah.
So
Well, I can tell you that Richard Elliott had a really hard time, and Tower of Power was playing. We opened for Tower of Power that night,
mhm.
and all the horn players were going off stage and getting the oxygen mask on, and like, and I'm not talking in between
Yeah,
songs. I'm talking in between rest areas that they had where they weren't playing. They would run off stage because they were just having such a hard time breathing.
it's
It's
especially
very
brutal
difficult.
to the vocalists and the horn players.
Exactly.
I do pretty well at altitude. I didn't have any issues, but our singer,
No, I
the
didn't
last time I
really
played there,
either.
they were having some troubles because it's so much of moving that thin air up there.
Absolutely.
But that's great. So now when did you start making the transition into doing the stand-up comedy and the acting and that sort of stuff?
Well, when I was leading my big band after I graduated from Fredonia State University, I started my own big band, which with a lot of the members of the Fredonia Jazz Ensemble,
Uh-huh. Oh, cool.
and we played around town. Uh, I was at one point we were playing 5 nights a week with a 16-piece big band in Buffalo, New York,
Wow.
and the guys were actually making money to do this.
That's a
It
lot
was
of
kind of
that's a lot of mouths to feed too.
Well, thank God for my brother Sam, because he helped me manage the band, and he helped set up and do all of that stuff. And we got quite a reputation in the city of Buffalo. And where were we?
Uh, you were playing 5 nights a week with the 16-piece big band, and
No,
your
no, no,
brother
no.
was.
But what was your original question?
Oh, I was just wondering what when you got into acting and the comedy stuff, and you said it stems back from
Right,
leading
right.
this
Okay.
big
So
band.
yeah. So where I was going with that, thank you for putting me back on track.
Okay.
Um, what I was going to say is that while I was leading that big band, we did dinner theater with the band, and so I would do some stand-up comedy in between. And then when I started studying acting, I did the Groundlings for 2 years doing improv, and
Wow.
we had showcases where we had to do stand-up with other acting classes that I did. So
Hmm.
that's my experience of that. I've always been a joke teller, and in a way. And then you said that you discovered on the internet, you discovered my one man show,
I
the
did.
highlight reel from my
Yeah.
one man show. I'm a musician and I'm okay.
Yeah. Well, I have a clip. Should we maybe play this clip? Let me see if I can
I
find
think
that.
if you think your audience would enjoy it, great.
I think they'd love it. Now, this is fun because I mean, I always appreciate that the musicians we're all artists of some sort. So some guys, like we had Grant Geisman a couple of weeks ago, and he's really into the comic books and all this sort of stuff. And Emil has gotten into this comedy thing. And this is a little clip from his one man show. The title's in it, so you can see this. Let's check it out.
Oh, as Jimmy Durante used to say, if that bullet wasn't there, I could have gone for it. My fascination for the piano began when I was around 11 years old, an extremely late bloomer by Mozart standards. Every time my tiny little hands touched those old, yellow, cracked, decrepit keys, I began to dream.
Okay, well, we got part of the clip there, and for some reason the audio just dropped out of that. I don't know what. There's always some little gremlin that just wants to do something.
I thought that was great though, because you actually got to play a really important moment from
Mhm.
the evening, and if that's all people get to see, that's,
Yeah.
at some point, Billy, I'm going to redo that show.
Mm.
And what was interesting is that I wrote most of that, recollecting my thoughts from my childhood and all the way to the present.
Uh-huh.
I also was lying in a bed at West Hills Hospital because I had kidney cancer at that point. And I ended up having to have my left kidney removed because of a cancerous
Wow.
tumor. And I think back to that time, and it's kind of makes me a little verklempt that thinking that I went through all of that during that period of time in my life. And it was great to dive into that
Mm-hmm.
that narrative and putting that together, because it helped me take my mind off of what was going on in my personal life
Well,
at the
yeah,
time.
as art will so often help with, right? So
Yes, absolutely.
and well, if you when you do revamp it, if you're going to perform it, let us know, and I'll put it out on the weekly newsletter so everybody knows about it, and maybe we'll
Thank
get a
you.
crowd
Thank
for
you very
you,
much.
and that sort of thing. Well, do have one comment from Donna who says, "Oh, this is nice. I remember Emil from high school, and I am so pleased with all he's done and his incredible work that he's accomplished." He also says she remembers you in high school as being quite the piano guy. So,
Oh, well, that was really sweet of her. Yeah. Uh, I was known as Emil for a long time.
mm-hmm,
And about 20 some years ago, I decided to take my dad's name, who I was born on his birthday,
mm-hmm,
my dad, Emilio Sr. And I decided to take his name because I got really tired of people pronouncing my name Emil, Amal, Anal,
yeah,
Emil, and so when I said, okay, it's Emilio, no one ever says it incorrect.
right. No, it makes complete sense to me.
And
So,
it's my dad's
yeah.
name, and I love that, to carry on because he was a very influential person in my life, and I love my dad very much.
Well, that's quite a tribute. So, when you got into the acting, was your initial thought like, "Hey, I just want to take some classes," or were you thinking, "I want to try to pursue this as a career"? When you took the acting classes, you mentioned.
Well, Billy, it's interesting because when I was in my 30s,
Mm-hmm.
I tried to have an acting career and a music career at the same time. And I started getting calls for auditions, and I got an agent right away because
Mm-hmm.
I have this look,
Mm-hmm.
whatever you want to call it. I'm a character actor.
Mm-hmm.
And so they started, getting me a lot of auditions, and I couldn't turn down a $500 recording session,
Right.
raising my wife and child at the
Mm-hmm.
time, uh, for an audition that would possibly get me an acting job.
Right.
And so I had to shelve it. And it wasn't until later when my son Emerson,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and I wrote the music for a TV series on Nickelodeon called Ned's Declassified School Survival Guide. And we weren't paid very much money to write the music for that show, and we were happy to just be able to write music for a show.
Mm-hmm.
But the show was so popular, and they repeated the episodes so many times
Oh wow.
that
Oh, I don't know if you've noticed out there, but it seems to cut out at just before the big payoff is going to come back.
I'm getting good at this logging off and logging back on. I
You
have to
are.
help you
And
realize.
I was just telling the audience, it's really great because it's just like, yes, the secret to the meaning of life is, and then it cuts off. Here, it's that
So
comedic timing.
how far did I get,
You
Billy?
you said you and your son Emerson, and
Oh yes. Okay. So we wrote the music for this show on Nickelodeon.
mhm, yes,
We got the gig writing the music because Guy Moon, who's a composer
hmm
that I had been working for on Fairly Odd Parents and a couple of other shows, uh, got offered this show, Ned's Declassified School Survival Guide, and he didn't have time to do it. So he said, would you want to do it with your son Emerson? And I said, sure, of course. So we did the show, and as I started to explain before I was rudely cut off by the
yes,
internet, um, we wrote the music for the show, and we did the first season. And for not very much money per week.
Mm-hmm.
We put in, 5 18-hour days for very, very little money.
Yeah.
But when the third quarter came around and we got our first residual check for $45,000,
Wow.
we said, oh, well, maybe this is pretty good. Maybe we should keep going. So we ended up doing 3 seasons for that. And the reason why I bring it up is because finally, after all those years of doing gig after gig, whether it be a bar mitzvah, a wedding, writing a chart for somebody, writing lead sheets, doing, background music for a television show, for a movie, we finally were making some substantial money doing that. And it allowed me to finally pursue my dream of being a professional actor. And so at that point, I started taking classes at a place that's right down the street from me, actually, with Sarah Wood, who is Evan Rachel Wood's mom. And I learned so much from her as this began. And then I went to Groundlings, and I studied because I had the money to not take every gig that came in. I'm sure you know what that's like. Because starting an acting career is very expensive.
Oh, I
got to get pictures, you got to study. And I took my job as to be an actor. Those things, I took it very seriously. I studied really hard, and then very quickly I started getting a lot of jobs.
Oh, that's cool.
And that's where we've come to as far as getting to the Nights of Swing.
Yeah, and so I just definitely want to get into this. I was building up to it. So this is your first feature film that you've written, directed, and produced, right?
That's correct. Yes.
You want to tell us a little bit? Well, I want to get into how the concept came, but just tell us the basic story of the film, and then we'll get back into the nuts and bolts.
Sure. No, I appreciate that. The Nights of Swing is a story about a young group of jazz musicians, high school jazz musicians, in 1947. And they have this sextet group of piano, bass, drums, trumpet, trombone, and sax, have this dream to become a real swinging big band. And so they approach the math and science teacher at the school because they know that he has a background in big band jazz. And he hems and haws, but finally he agrees to direct them. And then little by little, the band comes together, but there are many obstacles to the band going forward, mainly the fact that they are a diverse band, and they have a couple of black guys in the band. And if you know your history, in 1947, black people couldn't even go to the same bathroom or use the same water fountain as white people could during that. And so there's a great fervor in the community that, like, hey, what are you doing with these kids? That you're integrating these kids, but the school is already integrated. But the fact that the band is becoming so popular, and they're seeing the people, these young musicians working together and doing so well, causes fervor, and there's a lot of animosity towards the band because of that. And I don't want to give too much of the plot away, but that's the gist of it. And then they eventually go to the California Battle of the Bands. And lo and behold, the director of the California Battle of the Bands is the very famous Mr. Gordon Goodwin, who I've been friends with for about 35 years.
There's Gordon in his role.
There he
in
is.
the film. Yeah, Gordon's a friend of the show. He was on it on our big band composer night. But the film is a lot more than that. I went into it thinking, oh, it's going to be about high school kids. And I just finished watching the movie today. So I did watch the whole thing. I'm not like one of those hosts that has my minions watching things for me and feeding me notes. I am my own minion. So, okay, well, while Emil's gone, I'll just tell you that there's much more to it than the racist story, the racism issue, the issues they come across, some of the things that happen. And one of the interesting things to me is it takes place in Los Angeles. And in 1947, there still were racial problems, which I guess it was worse in other parts of the country, but it still existed here. And the show it kind of eases you into that movie, because it starts out and everybody's friends. And then some of these issues come up, but there are other issues also that come up. And like I said, there's some redemption story stuff in there, which I really liked, some interpersonal stories. And you really are rooting for the kids. you know, it's for me when I watch a show is I have to care about the lead people. It's okay. I want a villain that I hate, which you get in the show. Yeah, you know, and then but I really cared about them and the teacher and your character as the principal. Let's see, I have a photo of you in here. Let's see what we got here. There you are. Looks just like you. But this won't spoil the movie. But your character is a jazz musician who happened to get a gig as a principal of a high school, which I think should just be its own series. In fact,
Thank you.
I think that the show could have been made into a series, you know, because all the different storylines, the different plots, the different groups of characters you had, you know, even just the background sing, well, not the background, so the three women singers in it, you know, and then some of the racial tension, a lot of it's really, there's a lot in that movie. And like you said, it's got a lot of heart. But and the other thing I'll tell you that I like about it, I can say this because the songs in it, it's not a musical because the lead people don't break into song in the middle of the street or in the lunchroom or anything, but the songs in it reinforce the story. You can tell us some of the names of those songs, but they you know, there's an idea or, you know, there's a plot point going on and there's a song that kind of accentuates that. And I really enjoyed that part of how the music tied in. It wasn't just like, here's a groovy big band number. You know, there are a couple of groovy big band numbers, but you know, some of the songs really have relevance to the story. So I thought that was good. And so tell us the seed. What was the first idea you had? Did you say, I'm going to make a movie? Or it's like, you know what? This big band thing could be a movie. What was your process? Do you remember?
Well, yeah, it's very interesting. This project has taken a long time to come together, as most feature films do. I started writing the first arrangement. Roland Jacks, who's the producer and actually the creator of the world of the Knights of Swing, who, by the way, is 88 years old.
Wow.
And so he was actually in a band called the Knights of Swing.
Oh, wow.
In Linwood, California. So it is somewhat autobiographical because he's the lead character. Giff is based on loosely based on what he went through because he was an alto sax player and he also was a singer and a songwriter. And so we kind of chronicle his journey back in 1947. So there's a lot of heart in it because of his heartfelt history of who he was back then and what his dreams and his goals and aspirations were.
But now, were you just discussing with him one day and said, hey, here's an idea for a movie? Or had you been wanting to find an idea for a film?
He had this, as I said, in 2008, February of 2018, he sent me the first song, Schoolroom Blues. And he said, what do you think of this? And I said, well, this sounds like this could be a big band tune. And he said, oh, really? And I said, so I did the arrangement. I mocked it up. I did it. And he loved it. And then he sent me Love Is Ours Tonight. And I mocked that up as a you know, he said, well, I think we got something going here. And then he started putting the pieces together for the story of the Knights of Swing. And then he actually wrote, and it's interesting that you said this could be a series, because actually it was written initially as a 10-part series. And it just financially was just too much for us to produce all of that content, because it was about I don't know, maybe 400 minutes worth of stuff, you know, and as it is, we have a 115-minute movie. It's 2.5 hours, you know. So David Guttel, who co-directed the movie with me, we co-wrote the screenplay. We took what Roland originally wrote and we pared it down to this version of a 5-episode series. And because some of the episodes were so short, it didn't really work. And so we thought, let's just do this as a feature film and we'll just lay our hearts out on the line for the entire story. And it's turned out great for us because I think I had mentioned to you earlier today that, oh boy.
Oh, did we lose him again? This is like you know, interview roulette. We just, are we going to get him for 10 minutes? Are we going to get them for 5 minutes? We just don't know. Well, welcome.
How far
back.
did I get?
Well, I was just telling the audience that we're playing it's like chat interview roulette. We don't know if we get you for 5 minutes or 10 minutes. Well, you were saying that you had, it was 5 shows. Some of the episodes are too short, so you just put it all in as a film.
That's right. And I was just going to say that, and because of that, we were actually able to enter the Nights of Swing into several film festivals, and we just got, we were picked as honorable mention in the Santa Fe Film Festival.
Nice.
But we just last week got the news that we were in the Rome International Movie Festival. We won Best Picture.
Mm-hmm.
I won Best Supporting Actor. We won Best Hair and Makeup, Best Production, and Best Direction for David Gutel and myself.
Wow, that's
so the
that's
movie's
amazing.
Starting to get some real traction.
Yeah, I have the poster here. Let's see if this is there's the poster. Got to have a dream. And
Yes.
well, let me play the trailer, and let's just hope the audio keeps up. If the audio drops out, I'll stop it. But I will also put the links in the chat rooms, and it'll be in Monday's newsletter when I send it out. So let me find. Trailer is right here.
Detention. Oh, no. Attention.
I want to form a swing band.
Really?
A big band.
Oh, I can get the arrangements. The question is, can you and your buddies cut mustard?
There's a competition held in Santa Barbara called
the California Battle of the Bands.
Pretty amazing to hear these kids play and how they get along, different races, different backgrounds. Music seems to transcend all that.
Is this band authorized? Who approved it?
I authorized it.
We've been getting a lot of attention, and not a lot of it's good.
No one will be excluded from the Nights of Swing. Period.
Friends, not to worry now. Those kids aren't going anywhere. Trust me.
Everybody knows we have to play for them because Macy and I are in the band.
I can tell you the Knights of Swing aren't going to be invited to the competition.
You really have something going here, Mr. Miller.
We are not going to let Linwood be represented by no color boys. We have decided against allocating any funds to that band for any reason.
You have something worth fighting for, Herb. Don't ever forget that.
And that's why we gotta make sure this band happens for these kids.
Let's go play. Let's show them who the Knights of Swing really are.
Yay!
We did it.
I don't have my my sound effects hooked up tonight. I'm sorry. It was just something that I'll write a novel about it later. But no, that was really fantastic. It's a great. But like I said, the film is like so much more than just that. You give some hints, and now that I've seen it, I'm like, oh yes, yeah. But it's really worth watching. It's on Vimeo, right? In fact, I will put the link in the chat room as we speak. That's why I'm not looking at the camera.
Yeah, it's Vimeo on demand.
Yeah, and it's on Vimeo. There's the link, and you can get the trailer there. Then you go click the button if you want to watch it. And I recommend it. If you like big band music, you like stuff. And the story, like I said, there's a lot of personal stories in there that I thought were very compelling. Now, I got to say one thing. Did the music scenes where the kids are playing was so surprising, especially the drummer. It's like he played those tracks. Did you have professional guys do it, or did these guys actually play the tracks? Or,
well, it's an interesting thing, and I'm very thankful that my friend Bob Leatherbarrow. I don't know if you know Bob.
I know Bob very well.
Yeah, Bob played not only did Bob play all of the big band drumming for the Knights of Swing, but he also co-wrote the underscore with me. And Bob and I have been friends. In fact, this room that I'm in right now used to be his bedroom back in 1978. We moved out here together to California from Buffalo, New York.
Oh, right.
And he is one of my favorite mentors. I think I learned more from Bob than almost any musician I've ever worked with. He's an incredible vibes player.
He is.
Has a fantastic harmonic knowledge, and so we did our underscore with mostly just vibes and acoustic bass, but Bob also played all of the set drumming for all the big band stuff. And what's interesting is that Greg Sadler, who played Duke, our drummer, in the in the movie is a fantastic drummer on his own, and he actually studied every note that Bob played on all of those tracks, so that when we were playing the big band stuff, Greg was bashing because we played the music really loud behind him, because there's no way that you could have.
Oh, yeah. There's no way that you could have somebody fake that or not actually playing, I think is what Emilio was going to say. There he is. Yeah.
So
No,
what I was saying is there's no way you could have someone who didn't really know what the music was in terms of the drumming is concerned, and there's no way he could just lightly play. He had to bash the drums, and so Greg was absolutely fantastic in learning all of that stuff. And then on the flip side, on the flip side, Greg actually recorded all the drumming for the Wilson High Raiders, which was the competing band, because we didn't want Bob's drumming to sound the same for both bands. So then the other drummer from the other band had to do the same thing and learn all of Greg's stuff. And it was really great because Greg was standing off stage marveling at how this guy had learned every note that he did. And I said, well, that's the way Bob Leatherbarrow feels about what you did.
No, he really, the drums are one, you can tell instantly if it's not accurate. And I watched, I pay attention to those things. I was like, man, he nailed it. And the piano player, everybody seemed to be really spot on. I appreciated that. It wasn't just like B-roll of the band playing and you're hearing a sax solo, the trumpet players in front. No, you did a great job with all of that. Directing.
Well, I'm a real stickler for that, because I've watched plenty of movies, I'm sure as you have, Billy, where you see like, oh my God, there's no way he's playing that. Yeah, that's ridiculous. Yeah. So I was very, very determined to make sure. I mean, most of the musicians in the band are musicians to begin with, so they were reading the charts and playing it. And you can get away with that, playing the trumpet, playing the sax, the trombone, whatever it is. But the drums, like you said. And the piano and the bass, if you're not on that thing while it's playing, and if you're not hitting those kicks as they're coming, or as you said, the piano player, it's really obvious.
Well, I think trombone's another one that's reasonably obvious to me.
Okay, well, so I'm going to tell you a secret about that. Yeah, that's really pretty funny. The lead trombone player, the young black actor, Jeremy Staple, who plays Conrad, does not know how to play the trombone.
Oh, really? Well, he did a great job.
And you would never know that, because Jordan Wainwright, who is the girl trombone player, and who got us many of these musicians from Cal State Fullerton, recorded herself playing all of the notes of every.
Yeah.
Right? She played all of that. And he memorized it like he would memorize lines.
Oh, so she videotaped herself playing it.
That's correct.
Yeah, no, I've had friends that have coached actors that have to play an instrument. My friend Stephanie helped Russell Crowe play the cello for Master and Commander, and it was really interesting. But he did a great job. They all, and as you say that sometimes when the musicians don't look exactly right, it's because there isn't a jazz musician directing the film, or
there you go,
in the editing bay. They're just kind of like, wow, he's playing drums, great, let's do this. No, but I could tell that your attention to detail there, it was really cool, and it made a big difference. So, but now the story, all of the you wrote. Did you have a co-writer? I'm sorry, I don't remember the credits from the film. But.
Yeah, okay. So Roland Jacks, who's the executive producer and the creator of the Knights of Swing,
right?
Wrote most of the music, wrote the whole breadth of the long 10-episode version of this. David Guttel, who directed the movie with me, and I condensed what he wrote and added quite a bit of material to the story, because there were things that Roland because things that worked with a series did not work in the feature film,
right?
Because there would be too many departures, and so we had to coalesce this down into the story that the Knights of Swing actually became. And I can't thank David enough, because initially he was the first AD, first assistant director on the movie, and then it became obvious to me that I needed him to co-direct this movie with me, because he had more experience than I did. My expertise, because I've studied acting so much, and my expertise was working with the actors and getting the most out of them in their performances as actors. David was great in terms of setting up the shots, the angles, working with the cinematographer for the lighting and all of that and so forth. And yet David was really good because when I had to act on screen, I couldn't direct myself, and he had to be there for me to say, hey, you know, Emilio, maybe if you did this like this, or that was great, or, you know, what if you added this to what you're doing? We have a very simpatico relationship. It's kind of amazing. Someone my age and someone his age, because he's just turned 30, and I'm 68 years old, and that there was no gap. And it's funny, as I mentioned.
Oh. Now we have to find out, wait, to see what's funny. Should we guess? Oh, and here he comes.
How far did I get?
You said, what's funny is?
What's funny is that at my age and his age, we really relate together very, very well.
That's great.
Yeah, he's a young guy. And in fact, our entire crew, I have to thank Donald Wynn, who was our main producer. He's the one who put together locations, did the SAG contracts, did so much. There was no way I could have done this movie without him, without our cinematographer, Brian Lang, without the costume designers, and all the actors. And, you know, Richard Neal, who plays Mr. Miller, the band director, and I have been friends for quite some time. And I met him on the movie set of a movie called Prodigy that we were both in. That was extremely popular on Netflix. It ran for almost 4 years. It's a psychological thriller, and Richard is so great in that movie. I play a horrible person in that movie. I play this really mean colonel, a military colonel, and he plays a very sensitive and aware child psychologist. And his sensibilities about, and it was interesting because when I offered him the role for the Knights of Swing to be the band director, he said, well, the first thing I would see is that I need to be a father figure for these kids. And I was like, I hadn't even thought of that. I was thinking you're going to be the musician that inspires them and all this stuff. He said, no, I need to make sure that these kids trust me and know that I'm out for their greater good.
Right.
Which comes across, obviously. He's a fantastic actor.
Yeah,
and a good friend.
He comes off as that teacher that cares, you know. It's
exactly.
So what was his musical experience? I mean, as a not the character, but the person, because his conducting was pretty spot on as well, I thought.
Well, that's there's a story behind that.
Okay.
And I gladly tell you. Okay. I conducted all of those big band sequences and filmed myself, and then he watched my videos, and he watched Quincy Jones and a few other big band conductors, and sort of created this whole thing. He is not a musician himself, although he did play that little piano thing that he plays in his house at the beginning of the movie. But Richard is the kind of guy, and I think you would really love talking with him, because he's like an encyclopedia of acting, cinematography, movies. I mean, he knows the history of cinema. He knows the history of music. He could tell you more about Lester Young than I can. I mean, he's one of these guys who's like a walking encyclopedia of information from the 40s on, or maybe probably even before that. So his sensibilities about that era were just spot on, and he brought that to the table. And in fact, that's why he's associate producer on not only the lead actor, but the associate producer, because he brought so much to the table as far as helping us to say, well, this would be like this would be like this. I know from watching such and such, you know, very, very intuitive gentleman, and a great friend and a great artist.
No. Okay. Well, this is really great. And I do recommend the film, and there's the link to it. And also I'm going to play the Cucamonga is one of the songs that they do. And I have a video of that as well. And I think I've got it up. Where do I have this?
This will be great because you'll get a chance to see Gordon Goodwin.
Oh, right. And do you want to set this clip up, or?
Yeah. So this is at the point where Gordon and is playing the head of the Battle of the Bands committee, and his secretary, who's actually in real life his wife, Vanjie Gunn, who plays Miss Brooks. They come to hear the band to decide whether they want them to be in the California Battle of the Bands or not. And the rest of it tells itself.
Okay, let's see. It is right here.
We have several charts we want to play for you.
Oh, no. I'm afraid we only have time for one song tonight.
All right, then. Cucamonga. A 1, 2, 3.
He came from Hollywood to the Union Station. That's where Jack Benny got his inspiration for his funny line that made people laugh. It was Anaheim, Azusa, and Cucamonga. Anaheim, Azusa, and Cucamonga. 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 It wasn't holy guacamole, Frankie's getting roly-poly. It was Anaheim, Azusa, and Cucamonga. Anaheim, Azusa, and Cucamonga. It wasn't holy guacamole, Frankie's getting roly-poly. It was Anaheim, Azusa, and Cucamonga. Anaheim, Azusa, and Cucamonga. It was Anaheim, Azusa, and Cucamonga. Anaheim, Azusa, and Cucamonga. Cucamonga. Anaheim, Azusa, and Cucamonga.
Yeah.
It worked.
It worked. Amazing. No, that's very cool. You know,
It's really fun, isn't it?
it is a fun one, and just the storyline of how the three singers come into the group and all that. It was really kind of fun. A lot of bit about the story. So, well, you know, like if somebody, would you have advice out there for anybody who might want to pursue acting? You know, because a lot of musicians are pretty good on stage. They've got the confidence. And all
I
that sort
think
of
so
stuff.
too.
But there's certainly technical things, like we learn techniques in learning to play our instruments, and I'm sure there's some things. Do you recommend the schools, or do you have any advice?
Yeah, I think it's really important to find a good teacher that you relate with, someone that doesn't browbeat you, someone that wants to bring out the best of you. And I've been very fortunate to work with some fantastic acting coaches, and one of them who actually helped our actors in the movie is one of my mentors, a guy named Brett Rickaby. He's been in a lot of movies if you look him up. Kat Shea, who just directed this new movie that has come out on Netflix called Rudy. She's an absolutely fantastic director, but as a director, she makes a great acting teacher because she doesn't think about what she would do as an actress. She thinks about what she wants to see as a director. And so I learned a great deal from her. A guy named Eric Klein, who runs a studio where every week you do a full-blown movie script on set with 3 cameras.
Wow.
I did Groundlings for 2 years, where we did improv. I went 2 days a week at 10 a.m., drove from Woodland Hills to Melrose to the studio there, and worked with a group of people, as I said, for almost 2 years. And I'll tell you, you will not get Alzheimer's disease if you do Groundlings. because you have to think on your feet
I
the
know.
entire time. And you know, I did pretty darn good because I'm pretty good off the cuff. But man, some of these kids that were in there were just so fast and so quick. I had to kind of keep on my stuff, if you know what I mean.
Well, there used to be a show on TV called Whose Line Is It Anyway?
Oh, I love that
One of the
show.
more recent ones that Drew Carey and Ryan Stiles is one of the guys that was on it every week.
Oh my
And
God.
he just blew my, he was not a second would go by and he'd have the funniest idea come out.
It's
And
unbelievable
he
how
was,
fast.
and a lot of them were good, but to me, he just, it's like, oh my, where did this guy come from? It's really quite a talent, but because I'd like to take a class. I don't want to get into acting, but I just think it would be something fun to try. And I was thinking maybe
Oh,
just do
it's
a
very
community
challenging,
college or
believe
something.
me.
Oh, I'm sure, but it'd just be just something else to try and do. I may search out some class or something.
I think you know it's very edifying because it kind of it makes you take stock. Like, how fast do I actually think
Mm-hmm.
right
Oh
now?
yeah. Well, I have some friends that have taken the stand-up comedy class. It's a 10-week class and it ends on the stage, and they coach them through a thing, and they just, not that they want to go on and do that. They just thought it would be something interesting to try. So, and I always encourage anybody to try anything else artistic. You know, if you're a painter, try playing. If you play, try something in the acting thing. But it's so cool that you've turned this into a career. Now, was it 95 short films, 14 independent feature films, and you were in the hit comedy Expelled from 20th Century Fox and DreamWorks as Principal Truman and as Colonel Birch. Oh, Colonel Birch is the evil guy in the show Prodigy, which is on Netflix, right? Oh, I guess we'll have to wait to see if it's on Netflix or not. But I'm going to do some shout outs when I come back because we got some great people. Oh, there we go. And I forgot what I was saying. Oh, is Prodigy still on Netflix, right?
I think it's on one of the video on demand
Okay.
services. You can get it on iTunes
Okay.
or yeah, Vimeo on demand or video on demand. And another movie that I was in that was probably really put my face on the map was called Expelled.
Mm-hmm.
And Expelled is basically an homage to Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Okay. Yeah, I have that here on 20th Century Fox, and you played Principal Truman.
I did, and it was really fun to play. I'm actually putting together some TikToks from that right now.
Funny.
Just because Cameron Dallas, who's the lead of the movie, had at that point in his career had 24 million followers. Wow. Between his Vine and his Instagram and Facebook, and he was It was his first movie, but he was a fun guy to work with. But the director Alex Goyette, who put me in the movie,
Mm-hmm.
I've done like 7 or 8 projects from him, and I will send you some links after the show for some shorts that I've done with him that I think you'll find very, very funny.
Oh, cool. Definitely. I think I may have stumbled across your comedy reel online, and it may have been a scene from one of those. I think I remember seeing your principal talking to a kid, you know, and he's just so casual about the whole, yeah. So it was very cool. Well, I think we're going to wrap it up here. It's 8:00 and we got to have you back sometime. Now, are you still out there playing gigs? Are you still playing any of the jazz clubs or anything, or?
Well, I have not because of COVID.
Right.
And I've had some offers from a couple of different groups that I've played with. I'm so buried right now. My life has kind of changed and I've become a film producer director, and I'm working on another film right now. We're in pre-production, and it's very, very, very heavy because this next movie is going to be sort of a tour de force as far as my musicality and my directing and producing skills. It's encompassing my whole life, and I've actually been working on this simultaneously with the Knights of Swing, the last part of the whole Knights of Swing, and the promotion campaign that we've been doing to get it out there.
Well, I can't wait to see it, and I think I can say a big collective best of luck to you from everybody in our chat room. They all seem to love you.
Well, thank you. But before we close,
okay,
I want to just take this opportunity really quickly to say thank you to you for having me on your show and for taking the time to watch the Knights of Swing, your positive comments about it, the things that touched your heart that I hope that your listeners and your viewers will take to heart also. And it's important for us as artists as people who spend countless number of hours writing, arranging, changing that note here and there, writing this little lick a little bit differently, spending that time going over the dialogue and saying, well, maybe he should say this way. And for you to honor me and to honor our movie, The Knights of Swing, really means a lot to me, because this world that we call the entertainment industry has a lot of people who are disingenuous, and you are not one of them. You are a person who likes to support artists, and I'm very, very grateful for that.
Well, thank you. That was this live stream. This is show number 118. And this has been my opus for the last 2 years. And yeah, I think if we're not supporting each other, you know, we have to start with that. So anyway, and I like the movie, and there's a couple parts, not going to lie, I teared up quite a bit in a few spots in the movie also.
Oh, that's...
But people are in here, and Rochelle has said, I will definitely check out the movie. And I recommend you all do it. You can rent it there on Vimeo, and it's worth it. It's yeah, please check it out. If you do, send me a note, and I'll pass it on to Emilio, unless there's
I love that. Oh,
ahead.
and please ask your viewers, if they do, and when they do watch the movie, please make a comment in the comments section on Vimeo On Demand.
Yeah, do that. They're hearing you now. So we don't have we don't usually get a ton of visitors on this, but we do get quite a few listeners on the podcast. So hopefully they're on the podcast. And when I do the show notes for that, it has all these links in it as well. So I hope everybody's out there. I know I'm about 2 episodes behind in the podcast right now. I still have to do Grant Geisman's and then our young up and coming stars one. But now that I'm back home, I'm going to start working on those, and we'll get this out there. And once again, thank you, Emilio. This was really a fun interview.
Thank you so much.
Sure. And we'll see you again. I got to play. Oh, and he's gone again, but I will play this outro, and hopefully we'll see you. Oh, in a month, we're going to change up the format of, here he comes. Oh, I thought you were
Thank you so much.
I'm out. Yeah. I was just saying that we're going to change the format of some of these these jazz roundtables and start bringing bands in to play and discuss what they're doing and pick a particular topic and plan it. Because I remember a couple of months ago, we had 3 instrumentalists who sing, and it turned out to be a drummer. It was Dave Tull and Lyman Medeiros.
Oh, I love Dave.
And John Prue on keyboards. And they played as a trio. Then they could discuss the vocal aspects of what they did from playing. So we'll do a kind of a hybrids of our live shows with the live bands and the talk show. I want to start doing more of that. So I'm not sure, but it'll be the beginning of July before I take off on the road again. But, get on the newsletter. It's live at ZeroBPM.com, and that's AT for the @ I don't know why I picked a name with @ in it on the internet, but it seemed like a good idea at the time. But, I'll send out these links in Monday's newsletter. So get on the list, and we'll let you know when the shows come in. And I'm going to start doing best of clips and things like that. But again, thank you, Emilio. I'm going to play the outro, which I pay that voiceover guy a lot of money. So please sit and listen to this. And hopefully we'll see you all very soon.
Thanks so much.
Oops, that's not the right one. Where is my outro?
Thanks for joining us at Live at 0BPM. These videos will be archived on YouTube and Facebook, so tell your friends. These Jazz Roundtable shows will also be released as a podcast, so please subscribe. Go to live@0bpm.com for details and to sign up for our mailing list. Also, find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. See you soon.